Hi guys, I'm going to read you my excerpt of the first 1,000 words of my Camp NaNo novel that I'm writing right now. The title is The Sun Went Red. Filthy, dreadful species, Dia growled to himself absent-mindedly as he sat in his comfortable box seat in the shadows of the theater, twirling his empty wine-glass, lording over the people below. His long black nails dug into his palms as he snapped his fingers. The tiny butler, standing in the doorway, jumped to attention and puckered his lips into a silent protest, as if he had just eaten a lime. "Yes, master? How may I serve you? More wine, perhaps?" He was eager to please, and eager to get away. Dia continued to look bored and didn't turn around to address the man. "Bring the whole bottle, and blow out these candles. They are giving me a headache. When you have finished, close the curtains and leave me be." He was impatient with servants constantly buzzing around him and getting in the way of his thoughts. The man with the pinched face made a bow so low that his forehead touched his knees, and he retreated, never turning his back on the master. He hurriedly fetched the bottle of 1859 Merlot and the candle snuffer, and re-entered the theater box, all the while watching the master out of the corner of his eyes. He set the bottle on the red velvet side table and went about distinguishing the candles that ran along the ledge of the balcony in their alcoves. Once he was finished, he looked about the box and clutched at his heart when he saw the master peering at him, just two huge golden eyes looming out of the thick black. He cleared his throat and cleared it out of there, all but slamming the curtains shut behind him, scurrying off to catch his breath. Imbecile. Where does one find a decent butler these days? Dia cracked his knuckles and uncorked the bottle. He upended the bottle into the wine-glass and watched the liquid slosh in, mesmerized. The aromas from the wine filled his aquiline nose. He reveled in the hints of black cherry, spices, and blood. Now that he was diving into a second bottle of wine, he felt sufficiently tipsy enough to face the crowd of blank faces. Look at them down there, parading around and showing off. To what end? Below the theater box were hundreds of ladies and gentlemen of the highest caliber, mingling and chatting, the who's who of Abernathy. The men were wearing their tallest top hats and evening dress with the longest tails. The women flounced their finest frills in a pastel rainbow, with feathers in their hair. There was a jovial din inside the grand room with the frescoes on the walls. When going to the theater, it was essential to get a coveted box seat like Dia's, but everyone knew that the people below had much more fun. It was a chance to see and be seen, and the night's fashions and new couples would be talked about for weeks. The stage lights flickered, and a man with white gloves appeared, holding a sign showing that the show was about to begin. The ladies crowed and hopped back to their seats, trailing the men behind them, pausing to make pleasantries along the way. Once all were settled in their places and relatively hushed, the candles on the stage were snuffed out, and there was a brief interlude of darkness. All eyes were on the stage. Dia breathed easier. He was accustomed to darkness and preferred it this way. He often read into the late hours of the night with only a flickering candle stub and a dwindling fire. His buttery yellow eyes adjusted quickly to the dim, and he tracked the movement of the box seat opposite him. Two hunched figures seemed to be sneaking in right as the curtains rose. Dia was too curious to feel outraged. He owned the theater, after all. The curtains raised, and three women in rococo gowns posed in various stages of undress. The audience gasped and leaned forward in their seats. A smile tugged at the corner of Dia's mouth. The impact of the reveal would have had more pleasure for him if it hadn't been for these freeloaders coming in to distract him. The women on stage began their opening number, a three-part a cappella harmony opera about the summer season. They began their trills in Italian about how the hot weather was making their wigs stick to the back of their necks and their stockings fall down. In tandem they danced together, each woman undressing the next. Some of the ladies in the theater walked out, dragging their husbands behind them. Most of the civilized people left were too embarrassed to leave. How incredibly rude! And too offended to really continue watching. Outrageous! The ladies took out their fans and swatted at their faces, hiding their blushes, and the men placed their top hats in their laps. They turned to one another and shook their heads. The glare of the faux cut-out backgrounds in the lit-up stage illuminated the box with two interlopers. They appeared to be two women, in plain dress, lacking accoutrements. Most particular. Odd. Unaccompanied young ladies in their own box seat, but no outward sign of wealth, prestige, or family connections. How did they get in here? Apparently, Dia's inherited theater was out of date on its security measures. He would have to look into that. He snapped his fingers again, then sighed as he remembered he had sent the butler away. He lazily reached over for his silver cane and rapped it 3 times on the ground. most likely severely impacting the experience of the theater-goers directly beneath him. There was a loud wheeze as the portly man entered the chamber, and almost fell over himself to rush to his master's side. Yes? I want you to find out about these 2 women in that box there. He pointed with as little effort as possible. Family names, residences, backgrounds, and whether or not they have tickets. I fear they may be lost. The peculiar little man gave the master a peculiar little look. This was an unexpected request. It was well known that Obadiah Mendoza was the best well-known and most influential man in the county, and there were few that were unknown to him, despite his limited interaction with the public. It was Dia's duty, as the heir to the great fortune and a property, to uphold the family name. The butler bowed again and left his master's side, making sure that he was out of earshot before muttering under his breath about the supposed duties of a butler, and musing about whether chasing down hooligans truly fell under his jurisdiction. He began his journey towards the opposite box, through all of the back staircases and hidden doors between panels where the hired help passed through. Dia tapped into the pulse of the room. Still horrified, amused, and distracted. Good. He was growing tired of this evening now that his little fun had been spoiled. He longed to be in his private bath back at the Mendoza mansion with a good book. Contrary to whatever the temperature outside might be, he still always demanded that the water be brought in great quantities from the aged well on his property, and boiled. There was a sick part of him that enjoyed being vulnerable, while servants in their red and gold uniforms with white gloves poured scalding water over him, turning his tanned skin red and raw. It was a measure of his wealth that the most relaxing part of his day was the most laborious for his attendants. And there you go. Thanks for listening. Bye.